on. Can y'all hear me? Check. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Louder. That's it. Brother Reggie. There he is. Everyone, we're going to get started in about 1 minute, okay? Good morning, everyone. Morning. Excellent. My name is Adrian Wilson. I'm a program coordinator at the Charleston Area Urban League. And on behalf of our board of directors and our president and CEO, Mr. Otha Meadows, I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for attending the Charleston Area Urban League's first annual Low Country Mental Health Summit. Excellent. Before I go any further, I'd like to mention a couple of housekeeping notes. Given that we're still in a pandemic, we'd like to keep everyone safe, so we're strongly suggesting face coverings when we come in close contact to one another, and social distancing when appropriate. Also, the restrooms are located right outside and across from the auditorium, outside of this room to the right and to the right again, or you can go through these doors right here. Okay, that being said, I'd like to thank Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church and the Reverend Dr. Byron Bitten for hosting us today. Also, we'd like to thank Innovate Public Schools, Project Prevent, and First Citizens Bank for sponsoring the summit. Someone said a little earlier today that it's going to be a fantastic day, and she was right. The energy in the room is extremely positive and upbeat. That is extra special given the fact that we're more than 2 years into an international pandemic. Also, seemingly each day we're on the brink of world war, and the fact that there is senseless violence, senseless acts of violence happening constantly around us. So, for the next few hours, we're going to be treated to a wealth of information from mental health industry professionals that will help us to better understand the current state of affairs. So sit back and enjoy, and let's build power together. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mitchell. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Dr. Jerez Mitchell, and I am the program organizer for the Parent Leader Network. Can y'all hear me all right now? Wonderful, wonderful. I am just so happy to be here to see your faces and to actually see people. It's been a while since we've been able to see folks, so I am happy to see you in this space today. I want to recognize the Parent Leader Network. We have folks here who are going to be doing a presentation for you because we are doing this because of you. We are doing this because community members said that we needed information about mental health in regards to our children and students here in the Low Country. And so with Project Prevent, I could not have done this without Ms. Tasha Joyner. If she would stand, wave. In this collaboration, we have been working diligently to make sure that we are bringing you the resources, the information, the facilitators who will be able to provide more information about what mental health should look like in our school system. Since, I believe, 2021, we have been working to figure out, what are the issues in the community? What is it that we need to be doing to make sure that our parents and students are getting what they need? And after voting, we had a huge vote. Over 100 folks were in our virtual space. We voted, and mental health was the thing that everyone was like, we need to do that. And even further, there were other issues that came up, like civil engagement issues, nutritional issues, and other things. But mental health and wellness was the major priority that parents were saying, this is what we need, and this is what we need to talk about. And so our parents recognized that they didn't know what they didn't know. And so we needed to have a space to learn about that. And so that's what we're doing today. We're learning about what mental health looks like in the school, what it's supposed to look like, and what do you do if your child is suffering with suicidal ideations, anxiety, substance use. All of these things are happening. We can't ignore them. And parents now know that they can be amazing advocates for their students in the school to work on these issues and make sure that your student doesn't get overlooked. Okay? We have amazing vendors here today. I just want to shout some of them out. We have Reading Partners. We have Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church Mental Health and Wellness Table. We have Care in Action, Spoleto, the Department of Mental Health, Berkeley County Mental Health Center, Charleston Dorchester Mental Health Center, E3 Foundation, Palmetto Goodwill, and we have a wellness guru here in our midst. So please utilize them. Find out, get the information that you need. These are the resources that will be able to help us on our journey to making sure that our students are being seen and being heard. Okay, so what I would like to do now is I'd like to present some of our Parent Leader Network members, and we're going to do a short testimonial about some of the things that they've been doing, how they got here, why they are sticking with the Parent Leader Network, and why you should too. So if you're interested in being part of our Parent Leader Network, I want to encourage you today to sign up. See us at our table. Make sure you get your raffle ticket because we are doing a raffle at the end of our session today, so make sure you do that. But join us, because you don't have to do this alone. And the stories you'll hear will be from folks who thought, like, I was the only one. But once they came to the Parent Leader Network and they met with us, and we meet monthly at the last Thursday of every month at 7 o'clock. Once they realized that their story wasn't in a silo, they kept coming back and kept coming back. And so we want you to join us to make sure that you will keep coming back and that we can continue to support you and our students as they should be supported. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Parent Leader Network folks. Y'all can make your way on up here. These parents and community leaders, we have Reverend Harkness with us. We have the amazing Michelle Brandon, who is also Miss South Carolina Cosmos. And then we have as well Miss Deanna Brown, and they are going to talk to you a little bit now about their stories, and then we will move into our sessions, and those will get started right after.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Richard Harkness, Sr., the pastor of Olive Branch AME Church in Mount Pleasant. I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina. I'm married to Mrs. Kathy Good Harkness. We have 3 boys, and they're all grown, 3 young men, rather, but they're always my boys. Amen. And I've been pastoring and preaching for 39 years now. Spent my first 16 years in the upstate of South Carolina in the counties of Greenwood, Greenville, and McCormick and Abbeville County. Came to the Low Country in 2001. I was pastor of Moncks Corner AME for roughly 14 years. During my time as a pastor, one of the things that is a part of my ministry is advocacy. The pastor should be one of the lead advocates for his congregants, for the community. God has given us gifts and abilities, and one of those responsibilities should be advocacy. And so I've always sought to build capacity. Individually, we can do some things and we can have impact. But together, the capacity we can build when we pool our resources, our abilities and energy, it's amazing what we can do. Education, economics, and political power. Those were the areas that I've been most active in my tenure as a minister. I'm a child of an educator. Father was a principal for over 31 years. Mother was a first grade elementary teacher for over 33. And so that servanthood mentality and just seeing that modeled through my parents, not only through their educational profession, but also as they were active in our local church and the community. And one of the things about education that I learned from my mother, she said, I'm going to teach as long as I'm able to educate children. When I start doing more paperwork than I am educating, I'm going to retire. And that's exactly what happened, and that's when she retired. She retired when her paperwork became more than educating children. And that also was one of the things I remembered in one of the areas that we advocate for, is to have teachers do what they are gifted to do, to teach. Nowadays, we want them to teach. We want them to be behavioral specialists. We want them to be resource specialists. We've put too much on the shoulders of teachers. We do need that village to come back to the schools to help educate our children and let teachers teach and take some of those burdens we've placed on them. So by being a part of the Parent Leadership Network, I found like-minded individuals. I found people who believe that we can make a difference, that if we come together, identify issues, and be intentional with our effort and planning, that we can make an impact, we can bring about a transformation. And that's why I'm here. That's why I joined this network. They value your time, your expertise, and your experiences. 1 hour. And as busy as many of us are, I appreciate the fact that they respect that 1 hour. But we get a lot done in an hour. And as Dr. Mitchell explained, out of those meetings, that's why we're here today. That's the way things happen. If you believe something, having faith, God is the only one that can take nothing and bring about something. It's ex nihilo. He's the only one who can stand on the expanses of nothingness and bring forth a whole universe and life. And that's the power of faith. This organization did not exist this time last year, but look at where we are this year. Look at what we're doing. That's why I'm here, because I believe we can make a difference. And if we come together and bring that expectation and that faith, we can bring about transformation, and we can help our children grow up, be educated in an environment that is conducive for their success and for us building a better society. So thank you for this time. Thank you for listening to me. And I challenge all of the other ministers to come and be advocates for your congregation, for our community, and certainly for our children. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Michelle Brandt, and I'm originally from the Maryland, D.C. area, but I moved here 8 years ago. I live in Charleston County, specifically West Ashley. I have 2 children. My daughter, Belle, is 4, and my son, Theodore, is 7. And they will be going to St. Andrew's Academy of Mathematics and Science next school year. So I joined the Parent Leader Network because I was invited by a friend, and also because I'm running for office. I'm running for the State House seat in District 114, which is in Dorchester and Charleston counties. And I wanted to learn about other issues going on in our schools. I'm not an educational expert. I actually did serve on a school board for 2 years, and there was a lot I realized I didn't know about what it takes to run a school and what it takes to improve a school, and I actually ended up feeling really helpless. So when I found out about the Parent Leadership Network, I was really excited to join so I can have a sense of community, and that's what keeps me coming back every month, just hearing from all the other parents, it helps me understand the issues, because I think that we need more community engagement, especially in our policies, to have the results that are really going to impact and improve our schools. Something that I've gained from coming is just a sense of empowerment and advocacy. I want to be an advocate for our children and for our parents in the schools, especially if I make it to the State House. And I know that a win for the Parent Leader Network will be getting South Carolina from the bottom of the list. I'm so tired of South Carolina being, what are we, like number 48 out of the nation? I don't want to see that anymore, and I want to bring the change, and I think being a part of this is really going to help, and they put me on the legislative committee for the Parent Leader Network, which is cool, because, again, I'm not an expert, but I love hearing from all the other parents, and we have so much more in common, and I think that we're powerful when we come together. And with that, I'll introduce Deanna Brown.
Good morning. My name is Deanna Brown. I have 8 children, 6 boys, 2 girls. I'm actually a member of here, Mount Moriah. With that being said, I've been in the Charleston County now for 16 years. We recently moved to Berkeley County for the last year. The challenges that we have faced in the Charleston County with me being a mother was I had to advocate for my children. Specifically, I have 2 sons who have autism, and now they're doing much better that we moved to another county. But we had to really fight for a lot of resources, a lot of, talk to different networks. When I met Dr. Mitchell, I explained a little bit of my story to her, and a little quick testimony was, I had a son that used to always run away from school. They didn't understand why he would always run away from school. It was to the point where one day it caused a terrible accident at the corners of Ashley Phosphate and Cross County. And with this being said, I had to leave work. I was in the nursing field for over 20 years, and at that time, I had to consult with God and said, okay, I need to be a full-time mother to my children before something else drastic happened. I felt sad and I felt hurt. Every emotion you could feel, I felt it as a mother. I felt that I even failed at a time because my son was calling for all kind of attention. He needed all kind of help, and here I was sitting here going to work, trying to be the mother that I needed to be to provide stability for my children, and yet he needed all this help, that I needed to pay more attention to him, give him more undivided attention. Although I had 5 children, he needed the most of my attention. So I began to work with the school system, kept going to them, kept advocating for my son because I needed to be his voice. I had to be the one to sit there and go to them and say, my child needs X, Y, and Z. Why can't we get this done? You sit here, you want to do a BIP, you want to do all these things, and then you want to, send them over to mental health, and all they want to do is medicate my child. He does not need to be medicated. It was something different, and something different was when they did the blood test and everything came back, he in fact had autism. I was hurt. I felt betrayed. I felt every emotion that it was not good in the beginning, but then I realized that it seemed like in the beginning I was perceived as being an agitator, and then when they came back to me and they said, we thank you for advocating for your child. You knew him better than we knew him. I said, yes, because I was in the house with him. I watched him. I monitored him. I observed him. So I wanted to be that voice for not only my son, but for other children that I saw that was struggling like how he was struggling, for other children that I saw that they was very smart, yet though they needed more attention in other areas. And we as parents, especially in the underserved community, we don't need to always medicate children. You need to work with the teacher, work with the child. You need to spend one-on-one quality time with your child and see what it is that your child really needs, what that child really is lacking. Not just look at his strengths, but what is the weakness areas that you can work with your child. Being part of the PLN, we sit here, we advocate, we build, we connect. It's great because all parents can come from all sources. We don't just look at our African American, African children. We look at all children. We want to serve everybody, all families, because everyone needs help. Everyone needs help. When you probably think that you're in a different avenue and you're having it good, and you find yourself at that one moment going through the hardest part with one of your children, that you're like, oh, I'm stuck here, I need help. Then where do you go? Where do you look for? You go back to, you call your other colleagues and you said, this is the problem that I'm having. How can you help me? How can we get forth with each other? And this is why we're here. You want to come to PLN, and you want to come and you want to learn. You want to see how can you help other families? How can you build within the community? How can you build also within the network? Bring your innovative ideas, because we want to listen to them. We want to strategize. We want to work together. We want to innovate together. And a lot of times we don't get heard because you're silent. If you speak up, we can all work together and build. If you want to be one person, you're going to be considered an agitator. If you work together as a team, the voices will be heard. They'll go longer. We'll stand together as a family and build as a community. Amen.
So as you heard, if you are by yourself, you may be considered an agitator. But if you stand with us, we will be a community, and we can work together to figure out the best solution for the issue that you may be having. So without further ado, I know you guys are here to get the information that our amazing facilitators from Project Prevent are going to provide. You've seen the vendors. Make sure that you take a look at our vendors again during the exhibit, which will be around the 12:30 to 1 o'clock hour. But we're going to move into our first session. We want to be mindful, we are talking about some hard stuff today. Some of the things that you might hear might not be easy to hear. If at any point you feel like you're being triggered or you're feeling overly emotional, it's okay to be in that space. We have professionals here who will be able to assist you if you need some additional mental or therapeutic remedies. We have one of our clinicians here. She is a licensed master social worker, Miss Autumn Porter, if you raise your hand. So if you need to speak to her, if you need some immediate attention, or if you're having any thoughts that are coming up that might be risky, please make sure that you see her and speak with her, and she will provide you with additional resources that you may need. So if you would, you should have, when you walked in, you should have received a bag that has a flyer that will show you our next Parent Leader Network meeting. It is next Thursday, okay? So that's next Thursday. We meet online at 7 o'clock. So please come out. If you want some more information, please visit us at our vendor table, which is in the gym. But I am hopeful to see each and every one of you there next week, Thursday, 7 o'clock. The Zoom information is on that flyer as well. For our sessions, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to give everyone about maybe 5 to 10 minutes so you can get to the spaces. One of the rooms will be right next door, right through this hallway. That will be the mental health and families session. That's in C102. All other sessions will be upstairs in the Family Life Center. So when you come out of the chapel and go around the corner, you can go up the steps or take the escalator and go upstairs into the room. You should have the agenda. Did everyone get a copy of the agenda on their phone? If not, see me and we can scan it and get you an agenda so you can see where you're headed next. Okay? Any questions, comments? As Pastor Robinson used to say, all hearts and minds are clear. Yep, question. Yes, ma'am. The children are going to be upstairs in room C103B upstairs, I do believe. But you'll be able to see them. For the children, they are right upstairs. Okay? And I can help direct you here in a few minutes. No, he can go by himself, and you can go to your session, whatever session you wanted to, but I can help you get to that room. Yes, ma'am. Yes. NAMI, if you are wanting your child to do the NAMI session, I believe that's this one. Yes. For NAMI, this is for the adults. The NAMI session is for the adults. But during session 2, there'll be the NAMI session for the students. They will be here in the chapel. Okay? Ending the silence. Yes, ending the silence. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Yes, ma'am. For the raffle? Yes, please make sure that you visit our Parent Leader Network table to enter into the raffle. You're going to want to enter the raffle, I'm telling you, so make sure you stop by. But to enter into the raffle, you do need to sign up to be part of the Parent Leader Network. But once you do that, I promise I won't flood your inboxes, but you will get information from me. Information in the Parent Leader Network, we do have a lot of resources, free things too, workshops, events, things that are going on in the community. We like to keep our members up to date because that's the only way that we're going to be able to have the information that we need to be able to create better policy. Okay? So you'll get that information from me. All right. If there's nothing else, enjoy your sessions. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, we will be floating around, so please let us know. Have a wonderful session, y'all.
Well, I might be speaking to myself. Everybody looks like everybody left.
I think they'll be here.
Huh?
They'll be here. And don't be afraid to move this mic closer to you.
Okay. All right.
Actually, we are still hot, so
Okay.
this is live streaming right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So, do I need to?
Okay. I was saying talk. This is not on the internet.
So, I see if I have anything to say to you, I need to be talking from here, not from there. Because I'm just in there diluting everybody. Sorry. What time is supposed to be? 10:50? 9:50? 10:15?
We supposed to start. When's this session supposed to start?
Yeah, that's what the email said. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Can you go ahead? Go ahead. Okay, I told him to start. Okay. You get ready. Now, we're getting ready to start. Back it up one screen, please. Back it up one screen. There it is. Okay, good morning and welcome to Ending the Silence. Could you put the screen up for me, please? There you go. Welcome to Ending the Silence. My name is Leola Reeves, and I'm with NAMI, South Carolina. NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's the largest grassroots organization in the country dedicated to improving the lives of those who are affected by mental health conditions. I have joined NAMI in 2019. I'm a retired educator. I was born and reared in Charleston, South Carolina, but I'm the regional program director for NAMI PD West, which includes Florence and Darlington counties. I want to ask a question. Have you ever been concerned about someone, maybe a child or someone who's struggling emotionally? I want you to hold that thought about that person that you had been thinking about. And we're going to refer back to that person that you're thinking about throughout the presentation. Now, most of us grew up in families where we didn't talk about mental illness, but we're going to tackle that taboo subject today. We hope that you will leave with a better understanding of why we need to dispel the myths and end the silence surrounding mental illness and mental health concerns, why we need to do everything we can to stop the stigma. Now, we're not here as professionals, we're not here as therapists, we're not doctors, we're not any of that, but we are professionals in our own lived experiences with mental health conditions. We have family members or we that work for NAMI deal with mental health issues ourselves. So we bring the lived experience of mental health issues to you today. During this presentation, you're going to learn about warning signs of mental health conditions, about suicide, and how to respond to both of them. Okay, most importantly, you're going to learn how to start that conversation with someone about mental health and mental health conditions, okay? At the end of my part of the presentation, Catherine, who is my young adult presenter today, is going to share her mental health journey with you. So just sit back and relax and you know, feel free to interact with us. I'll be asking some questions along the way, and maybe you will raise your hand if you know about that. Most of us, how many of you grew up in households where you were told what goes on in this house stays in this house? Most of us were. Most of us grew up being told what goes on in this house stays in this house. And that even meant mental health issues. These were things that we didn't talk about. I remember growing up when someone did have a mental health issue, they just disappeared. and the adults whispered among themselves about where that person was. I heard about Bull Street. I didn't even know what Bull Street was, but you know, that's where people were sent with mental health issues, and that's all we pretty much knew then was that. But we're going to talk more about that today. We're going to be an open book about the mental health journey. So I want you to keep that person in mind that you're thinking about, maybe someone that you've been caring about and being really concerned about, if you're a parent or a grandparent, really concerned about a young person who may have been struggling. And let's face it, there's been a lot that we've been struggling with lately because of the pandemic. So let's take a closer look at mental health. Now, there are many mental health conditions, anything from anxiety and depression to PTSD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. There's just so many of them. But we're not going to spend time talking about specific mental health conditions, but rather how they affect us. So let's take a closer look at what is mental health. Exactly what is it? Well, it's something we all have. We all have mental health just like we have physical health, okay? But the difference between the two is that when we feel healthy, especially mentally healthy, we do well. We feel well, we do well. Now, that doesn't mean we feel good all the time, because I know I certainly don't. But when we are feeling well, we're able to deal with our emotions and stress in a positive way. I know when I go to the doctor, I've been going to the doctor, and she asks me how I'm doing, and I tell her, you know, I'm doing fine. And then she digs deeper. She was one to dig, and I'm saying was because my doctor passed away in November. Very traumatic experience for me. But she would ask me, okay, so how are you doing emotionally? Are you stressed? I remember sharing with her that my 2 teenage grandsons had moved in with me. She said, well, how's that working for you? So I said, well, sometimes so and sometimes not. She understood that if I was under stress, it was going to affect me physically. She understood that. And so she wanted the whole picture. She just didn't want to know how I physically felt. She understood the role that stress played in my overall well-being, and she was concerned about that. So during the pandemic, which was an unprecedented time for us, we had to think outside the box as far as how we were going to stay healthy. What did that look like? We couldn't go to the gym. We couldn't interact with our friends. You know, we were being told about social distancing. We're social beings, okay? So that was hard for a lot of us. It was definitely hard for me. It's one thing to choose to stay at home. It's another thing to be told you can't leave home. Totally different mindset altogether. So that was challenging for a lot of us. So what are some of the things that you did during that time? And I'm asking you all, what are some of the things you did during that time to keep yourself physically and mentally healthy at that challenging time? What'd you do? Anybody? Yes. You know what? You took on a project. You took on a project and you saw it through. I took on many projects and none of them got, you know, but I started, you know. But yes, you had a plan, you executed the plan, and that's what kept you going and kept you focused. A lot of people talked about them walking their neighborhoods, and I saw people, I know the pandemic was not a good time, but I saw people interacting with their children. I saw people riding the bikes with their kids in the neighborhood and doing things that they always claimed they didn't have time to do. They were doing it. So, yes, mental health is something we all have. So what we want to look at now is what a mental health condition is and what a mental health condition is not. First of all, a mental health condition is a medical condition. So is a physical condition, okay? And so we often think of this as something that we have total control over, not necessarily so. If we have a mental health condition, if we are under stress, if we are under anxiety or whatever, then there are things that we may need to do to take care of that. We wouldn't walk around on a broken leg saying it's going to get better by itself. We wouldn't do that, okay? And we don't need to think of it that way when it comes to mental health condition. If you're physically ill, you're going to go to the doctor, you're going to get the doctor's going to do some kind of screening to see what's wrong with you. They're going to screen, they're going to come up with a diagnosis, and then they're going to come up with a treatment plan. I have high blood pressure. I have a treatment plan for my blood pressure issues. There are people who have diabetes. They have a treatment plan for diabetes. There's a treatment plan for mental health conditions. Remember earlier I mentioned the fact that there are different kinds of mental health conditions? So that means that there's not a one thing that fits everybody when it comes down to mental health issues. So the same thing the doctor would do, screening, diagnosis, and come up with a treatment plan, okay? Mental health conditions, the difference between the two as far as physical and mental health conditions is that mental health conditions concern how we think, feel, and behave, okay? That's the difference. But they're common and they're treatable. Think about the fact of whether you know someone in your life that you've been concerned about, like I said before, been concerned about someone that has a mental health condition, because we've all been stressed. Things happen. I've had dealt with the anxiety and depression before. I have an adult daughter who was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age. She has a son that has ADHD. She had one that had bipolar disorder. So we all, those are things that are common, but they're treatable. And treatment options have come a long way since the 1980s, early 1980s, when my daughter was diagnosed. Because we were told back then, okay, give them the medicine, they sent us home with medication and that was it. There's so much more involved now, so many more options, whole lot better than that. Okay, so what mental health conditions are not? Mental health conditions are not anyone's fault. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Having a mental health condition doesn't make you a bad person, okay? And it should not limit you from achieving whatever goals you have in life. Let's look at some facts. Prior to the pandemic, there were 57 million people in this country dealing with mental health issues. 57 million. That's a whole lot of people. And that number has steadily risen since that time, since the pandemic. South Carolina is now at above the national average when it comes to two things, anxiety and depression. And there's been a whole lot to be anxious about, and there's been a whole lot to be depressed about. Yes. Okay. What I would like to do, if you could hold that thought for just a minute and let me get through, we will entertain questions at the end, okay? And we have, at least at that point in time, maybe 1 in 5 youth that were dealing with mental health issues. Okay, now it's maybe like 1 in 4. The numbers have increased tremendously. There's a 50% of youth between the age of 8 and 15 with mental health conditions that don't receive any kind of treatment at all. No treatment. Why do you think that is? Now, you see stigma up there, and it does have a lot to do with it, but what does that involve when we say stigma? What are we talking about? What are we talking about when we say stigma? Exactly, exactly, on point, okay? She said a lot of it has to do with embarrassment, shame, because you remember, this is not something that we're used to talking about, and especially it has a lot to do with how we were raised, you know, not to talk about these kinds of things. And she mentioned the stigmatizing language, crazy, cuckoo, nuts, and all these other derogatory terms that are used to describe someone with a mental health condition. People don't want to be judged. They don't want you to think less of them because they're struggling, okay? They don't. My grandson that I mentioned that has ADHD also has asthma. He was at school. He had asthma attack. Everybody rallied around him. Do you need some water? Do you need some air? Do you need a bag to blow? I mean, just whatever. They were all there to support him. He had a ADHD meltdown at school. His mom was called, please come get Aaron, he's acting crazy. Okay? Same child, same group of people, totally different reaction. Okay? Because we don't tend to sympathize with what we can't see. Okay, we know when someone's physically ill and we're ready to support them, but for some reason or not, we think that when it comes to mental health issues, that's something we can help. That's something we can control. Not necessarily so, okay? Young people have been accused of being a drama queen or king, you know, by adults. And kids have told me, you know, when I was counselor, when they go to a parent sometime and talk about what's going on with them, they're being told things like, well, what do you have to be stressed about? You don't have to get out there and work. You got a free place to live. You got food to eat. You don't have any responsibilities. Why are you stressed? You know? Well, I say if it's stressful to them, then it's stressful, period. And it's something that needs to be addressed. Okay? So we oftentimes know that stigma has to do with feeling an attitude or feeling about something or someone that's not based on truth. Okay, it's not based on facts. Like saying that people who have mental health issues are violent, they're dangerous, you need to stay away from them, they're gonna hurt you, when in actuality, oftentimes people with mental health issues are victims of crime more so than committing crimes themselves. They're often bullied, and they're often discriminated against. So that has a lot to do with, you know, the stigma that goes along with that. Now, if that person that I told you about earlier, that I asked you about, that you were concerned about, did they have any of those kinds of concerns? Were those kinds of things going on with them? And as an adult, we need to be there to support them. In their struggles, and we often tell you know, young people to find a trusted adult, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. These are some warning signs about mental health conditions that are listed here, and these are not all of them. These are not all of them. These are some of the warning signs that have to do with mental health conditions. And we usually look at 2 weeks as a measuring stick for that. Because when something is going on with that person that's lingering on and on and on, and they just can't seem to shake it for some reason, they just can't seem to get past it, and it's interfering with their functioning. Maybe they're sleeping all the time. Maybe they can't sleep. I have a grandson that deals with anxiety, and he'll be up all night worrying about stuff. He thinks and overthinks things, and so very anxious a lot. And this is a child that I check on every day and say, okay, how are you doing today? You know, what's going on with you today? Now, sometimes we have to dig a little deeper as adults and not just only say, how are you doing, but we say things like, okay, I've noticed that this and this and this has been going on with you lately. Can you tell me more about it? How have you been feeling? You know, because I know in that way you're asking an open-ended question instead of saying, how are you doing? And then they tell you, I'm doing okay, and then everything shuts down. So when you leave it open for them to respond and to open up, but I say approach them in a manner of caring. Let them know you care about them, okay? Let them know you're there for them and that you're willing to listen. And 9 times out of 10, they will open up. Now, there are other things up here that are shown, like sudden overwhelming. Anybody in here ever had a panic attack before? I did too. I thought I was dying because I didn't, you really think you're having a heart attack and that you're dying. I mean, and it's scary. It is extremely scary. And I was stressing about something that I should have dealt with and maybe didn't know how and didn't talk to anybody about it, and that's what I found myself in the ER, okay? So it's a very scary experience. Some of the things like seeing, hearing, believe, and I'm not saying that all of these things happen, but these are some of the warning signs, and there's more. There's more. We're in a very body-conscious society now, and young ladies in particular are very conscious about how they look and how they want to appear, and so we sometimes do extreme things to look good, whatever that may be, and so sometimes we have that involved. Sometimes we may have drugs and alcohol involved. Trying to harm oneself, attempting suicide, or making plans to do so. I had a student to sneak in my office one time. She was, and she literally snuck in. She didn't want anybody to see her. So she ducked in my office. My office was like tucked away in a little corner when you came in the main office. And she said, can I talk to you? I said, sure you can. And she said, my friend is cutting, and I think she's going to die. She said, I'm scared. I'm really scared she's going to die. And so, sure enough, I called her in. I got one of the other counselors in as well, and the nurse too. And we talked with her, and she showed me her arm, and it looked like railroad tracks, okay? But she was able to tell me when it started and why it started. And so that was a good starting point. Now, if you are a parent or you are another professional, don't always think that parents are going to be receptive to your reaching out. When we reached out to this child's parent, she kind of lashed out at us, and we had to kind of calm her down and let her know that we weren't accusing her, that she is not a bad parent, and oftentimes people who have children that are struggling with mental health issues feel like they're being judged, that their parenting skills are not on point or whatever. So, we had to reassure the parent and then point her in the direction to get help for her child. When we do these presentations in schools, we ask the students to make sure they have a trusted adult. That is very important. They tell each other things, but they tell each other to keep things a secret. and it's not a good thing to do, okay? So we try to make sure that they have a trusted adult, somebody at home, somebody at school, somebody in the community, if they attend church, somebody in their church community that can assist them if they're in a crisis situation. There is an app, when you get your handouts, there's some bags over here that have some handouts in it. All of the emergency numbers, emergency contact numbers are on there. There's also an app on there called Not Okay. This app was developed by a high school brother and sister. They developed this app, and what it is, you can go in and put in up to 6 contacts, emergency contacts with the phone numbers, and those people can be contacted if you're in a crisis. So we always encourage our students to do that. But they need to talk to a friend, write a note to someone, use resources that we give you, and we'll have the resource cards there, or call NAMI. We have a text-free line. We also have a toll-free line that people can call. Okay? Now I'm going to switch gears for a minute and talk about suicide, and if anyone's triggered by what I say, you're welcome to, step out. They say they have people to support you if you need it. Why is this an important subject? Why do I need to talk about this? Well, suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth in this country. The January 2020 article in the NEA magazine, the cover story was 1 in 6 youth consider suicide. 1 in 6. And that number has probably increased since the pandemic. So it is something that is really, really, really of a concern. What I would say, though, is that when someone has suicidal ideations, I don't feel that they necessarily want to die, but they're in unimaginable pain and suffering, and they feel helpless, and they feel that this is their only way out. But you have to realize that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, okay? So it is very important that help is sought for that person. So when someone is talking or writing or drawing about death, talking about having no reason to live, or being a burden on others, or not being here tomorrow, this is something of concern. I always say if something doesn't feel right, look right, sound right, you need to go with your gut. You need to go with your gut feelings. And so ask the person, are you considering suicide? I'm going to get to that for a minute, and I'll tell you why it's important to ask that question. But if they're looking for ways to attempt suicide, if they feel hopeless, helpless, and trapped, if they're giving away possessions, that's important too. And young people are real territorial when it comes to their stuff. So, if they're giving away video games and media passwords, media accounts and things like that, that's something to take a look at and say, okay, why is this going on? If you're suspicious, then definitely say something. They're just behaving recklessly, maybe. Or if they're withdrawn, because everyone who is having mental health issues doesn't do reckless things, at least outwardly. So there are things that go on that we need to pay attention to as well. So take the warning signs seriously. Make sure that you get help for them immediately. And ask that question, are you thinking about suicide? Why is that important? Are any of you comfortable with asking somebody that? Are you comfortable with it? Because most of us aren't. Most of us are not comfortable asking somebody that, but it's a necessary question because it gives them time to think about what they're thinking about doing, okay? If that person has a plan, if that person has access to weapons, that's an emergency situation, and that person needs help right then and there. One misconception that I want to clear up, and we've heard it over the years, is that black people don't kill themselves, and that's not true. That's a dangerous assumption to make. Suicide has been on the rise in the African American community between 99 and 2017. Suicide has been on the rise, 73% among African American males. Now, I don't know whether you have, but I knew someone that took his own life. We didn't see it coming. We missed all the warning signs. They were there, but we missed them, okay? We thought about it afterwards and say, you know what? He did do so-and-so. He did, you know, that. And so there was a lot of guilt involved. There was a lot of just a range of emotions that went on after the death of this person. My grandson, 3 years ago, walked in on a suicide attempt in the bathroom at school, okay? He tried to, I'm not going to go into graphic details, but he tried to assist that person, and he realized he was going to do more harm than good, so he ran and got somebody. But he was a total wreck when he got home. First thing out of his mouth was, well, it was someone he knew. And the first thing out of his mouth was, I knew he was depressed, but I didn't know it was like that. And that's what a lot of us say. We didn't know it was that bad, okay? He was very upset. He said, suppose I was a few minutes later, he would have been dead and it would have been my fault. He was just all over the place emotionally. And so we had to get him calmed down, and I had him to see a therapist because he really felt that if that child had died, that it was his fault. He said, if I was, because, you know, the color had already changed in the person's face and all of this, and that's what he walked in on. He really thought he was already deceased, but he tried to assist him, and he realized that wasn't going to work. I don't want to see someone else's child or grandchild walk in on a situation like that. So we do need to be, you know, mindful that when we see signs of things that don't look right, sound right, feel right, we need to say something. We need to say something for sure. So what makes symptoms better? Treatment. Now, I'm not here to advocate a specific kind of treatment because, like I said, one size doesn't fit all when it comes to mental health issues. But treatment involves different things. It involves different kinds of therapy. It may involve medication, it may not. That depends on, but I always say, and we always say here at NAMI, the earlier treatment takes place, the better. The earlier, the better. Early intervention is always what's desired because you will have better outcomes with that. It may not get to the point where the person needs to be on medication, but certainly early intervention. And I often ask, you know, like, there are some treatments that are non-traditional. Some people turn to pastoral counseling or, you know, things like some people do art and pet therapy. I cannot tell you how much my students, the students that we've presented to, have talked about the source of comfort their animals were to them. And that's very good. I was going to visit a friend of mine after the pandemic kind of eased down a bit, and I was going to go see her. And then I found out her daughter had a pet snake. Well, needless to say, the trip was canceled. And I told, she said, well, it's in an aquarium, I have it. I don't care, sweetheart, I don't care what you got it in. I don't do snakes, I'm sorry. you know? So I didn't. I talked to her on the phone, and she put this post on Facebook of the picture of the snake. The snake had died. She said the snake died from COVID. I don't know. But, you know, it just wasn't something I was willing to do. So I kept up with that friend another way other than going to see her, and now you know why. So what makes symptoms better, and I'm getting toward the end now because I want you to hear Catherine's story. What makes symptoms better? You know, we talked about those negative coping skills, the reckless behavior. Well, these are the things that are positive. You know, like getting enough sleep, eating healthy, writing in journals, or listening to music. I like journaling. I have 3 of them. I have a prayer journal. I have one that hospice gave me when my husband died, and I have one for just, you know, things. And I don't feel the need to write in them every day, but they're there when I need to, and I can look back and reflect and see how far I've come emotionally myself, and it's been good. Sleep has been a challenge for me. What about you? How many hours of sleep are you getting? Somebody's doing like this. Absolutely. It's been challenging, but we have to think about the fact that our bodies go into repair while we're sleeping. Our cells and organs repair during sleep. So that's really, really important as far as how we function the next day. So I encourage them to get enough sleep. And I've talked to young people who I'm concerned about because they say they get 3 and 4 hours of sleep. And that's not good. That's not good. I said, do you have the devices in the bed? Do you have the phone in the bed and all this other kind of stuff? And they said, yeah, they do. So cut those things off and try to get the rest that you need. Okay. When I show this slide, I usually ask myself, I said, okay, what do these people have in common other than being rich and famous? Because that's the first thing they say, that they're all rich and famous. But in actuality, all of them have shared with NAMI that they struggle with mental health issues or have struggled with mental health issues over time. There's only one person on here that's deceased, and that's former President John F. Kennedy, who dealt with anxiety. And it may have had to do with the fact that he was injured, suffered a serious injury during World War II. But there are people on there that have dealt with anxiety, depression, eating disorders, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Lady Gaga has she has a foundation that she has created. Taraji P. Henson has a podcast, and there are a few other African-American celebrities that have decided to come out and really try to talk about mental health more and the fact that it is something that we need to address. So I have up here that I ask about how can you support someone who is dealing with mental health issues. And these are some things that you can do. You can definitely help them to stay positive. How can we reduce stigma? Well, one of the things is that we can talk to our family and friends about mental health issues. Now that we're well informed about it, we can, there are places we can go on social media. oktotalk.org is one of the places that we can go. We can, I ask young people to decide not to bully and not participate in it if you see a situation going on with bullying. So wearing lime green is the color that we use for mental health, just like pink is for breast cancer and purple is for Alzheimer's. We use lime green to represent mental health. Okay. So I want you to remember, and I'm wrapping up, I want you to remember that mental health conditions are medical conditions. It's not anyone's fault. We need to know the warning signs. We need to know that we're not alone, that help is possible, recovery is possible, and that we need to do whatever we can to do, because we have the power to do what? End the silence. Thank you so much for listening to my part of the presentation. I want to introduce Catherine at this time. Catherine is one of our young adult presenters, and she's going to share her mental health journey with you at this time. Go ahead, Catherine. Thank you so much. And we'll questions after.
Hi, so I'm Catherine. I have been sharing my story with NAMI since 2017. This is my first in-person presentation since COVID, so it's very exciting. So since I don't have a lot of time, I'll just jump right in. But when I was 16, my parents were getting divorced, and I had a couple other circumstances that happened within a month's time. I broke my nose from cheerleading and had to have surgery. I got a concussion from that, and then a week later got in a car accident and had a concussion from that. And then a week later, my best friend's boyfriend died by suicide. And also my parents were getting divorced, and so it felt like one thing happened, I was trying to process it, and then another thing happened, and I was trying to process those two things, and then it just kept happening, and I was like, whoa, can things slow down for a second? And so when I started feeling withdrawn and not myself, not wanting to get out of my bed as much, spend time with my family, school used to be really important to me. It wasn't a top priority for me at that point. When I started to notice those changes, I thought it was just because of what had happened, and I'll be able to work through it, and I just need some time to adjust. But then things were getting worse. School was getting harder to go to and focus on. I didn't want to hang out with my friends really as much. I started to not even want to go and eat dinner with my family. I just wanted to be in my room alone all the time. And so when I realized that this is something that I couldn't work through on my own, it was something bigger than that, I talked to my parents about seeing a therapist, and luckily they right away were like, okay. I hadn't had anyone in my family that openly talked about having mental health conditions before. Come to find out, I had several people in my family after I had openly spoken about it. But it was kind of like a taboo thing to talk about, even though other people had struggled too. And when I was then sent to a psychiatrist, and I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I thought, when I get on medication and go to therapy, things should just get better, And I just kept getting worse. The medication I was on my body just didn't really work for it. I had to try a couple different medications. I had a psychiatrist prescribing me a new medication every week. I was on 8 medications at one point as a 16-year-old. It was way too much for my body to even process that. I started getting so much anxiety about school. Even the thought of getting ready to go to school would send me into panic attacks. I really had to be honest with myself and realize how much I was struggling, and that continuing to go to school was going to make my mental health worse. It had only been getting worse and worse, and I didn't see a point where it was going to improve. And so I talked to my mom, and I said, I don't think I can go to school next semester. And nothing was online at this point, so she, that was kind of that didn't seem like an option. She's like, you have to go to school. That's just what you do. You go to school. And I had to explain to her, I was like, I don't think I can. I'm not saying this because I'm feeling like a lazy teenager or because I just don't want to go. My mental health will get worse if I keep going. It's going that way anyways, and I just see it drastically getting worse. And luckily, after, she really could see that I was serious, and my whole life school had been important to me. She knew that there was a reason why I was saying this, and we talked to my guidance counselor, and I was put on homebound, where the teacher comes to your house and teaches you. And I thought things would get better if I wasn't at school. And I became suicidal. It was kind of just my depression, it needed to run its course. I wasn't on a medication that was helping it at that point. I started to become started to become suicidal, and as soon as I started getting those thoughts, I knew logically I didn't want to hurt myself because I had seen the devastation of the community of when my classmate died by suicide. So I was, logically trying to fight off those thoughts and feelings, but they kept getting worse and worse and stronger to fight off. And I told my mom about it, expressed to her that they were getting worse, and my mom's an amazing mom. She was in denial that her daughter wouldn't want to be here. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine it's got to be very difficult to hear. And so she was like, you're just stick to your treatment plan. You're on medication. You're going to therapy. Like, things will get better. And I was like, things are not getting better. They're getting worse. And I kept, for a couple months, telling her that I was suicidal. It was getting worse. I had insomnia too, so at night I was completely alone while everyone was sleeping, and that's when it started to be where I was like, I don't trust myself. Like, it's not good. Even though I know I don't want to hurt myself, the thoughts and feelings are getting too strong, and I don't think I'm going to be able to fight them off much longer. Tried to express that to my mom, and she was just, still in denial. And finally, one night, and my sister was 9 years old at the time, and she witnessed this, and I at first felt bad, but I was like, it's better than me not being here. So I said to my mom, I was like, I'm going to attempt to kill myself tonight if you don't take me to get professional help right now. Like, take me to the hospital right now. I'm out of options. I've been telling you for months that, and months are a really long time when every single second is just an immense amount of pain. And finally, that was really when she realized. And so they took me to the hospital. I spent a week on the behavioral health floor with kids my age that had attempted suicide too. And that was the first time I had met people my age that were struggling that much, connected with them, and could really see, I'm not alone in this, because that's what your depression loves to tell you. And I just saw, it really got my passion for helping others with mental illness at that point, because everyone was supporting each other, even though we were all in one of the darkest stages in our lives. Somehow everyone supported each other and was focusing on making each other's days better, which was really cool. And they switched my medication. I was able to get on one that works for me, and I did a lot of therapy. I did therapy when I got out of it. And I went back to school my junior year of high school. I really just tried to stay on a treatment plan, and things were better for the most part. I graduated on time with some college credits and was able to get into USC, and had some struggles in college too. Started to become suicidal again, and a new psychiatrist switched my medication. My body didn't like that medication. Those suicidal thoughts started to come back, and I was at school by myself. I was in overflow apartment living, so I kind of lived on my own, and I called my mom right away, and I was like, I'm getting these thoughts again, and I'm completely alone. I'm, an hour and a half from my home. I don't feel safe just being by myself. And she immediately was like, okay, I'm driving down there. We pulled me out of school. I was like, I'm at the point where I don't think I can continue school again. And I had to medically withdraw from that semester, but I kicked back up in my treatment again. I was like, I don't want to get to the point where I have to go to the hospital. So let's stop that before then. And did a lot of treatment, went back on my medication that worked for me, therapy, all of that, started feeling better. And I graduated a year ago yesterday from college. And so I was able to graduate on time, miraculously, with a degree in psychology, a minor in counseling, because I plan on going to grad school to be a mental health counselor and help others. And my 16-year-old sister actually is currently on the psych floor of the hospital because she was suicidal. And I'm sharing that because, my mom had gone through it with me and was in denial, and we finally felt like got over the hump of, realizing that this is real and I need help. And unfortunately, my sister had the same struggles of kind of saying, I'm suicidal, I need help. And she was like, well, we'll create a plan, we'll do this. And she's like, no, I need professional help. And I talked to her on the phone, and I was like, you know, and of course my family's like, my grandma's so upset that she's in the hospital. And I'm like, you know, honestly, her being in the hospital makes me feel better if she was suicidal. Like, nobody knew that she had been suicidal, besides, I guess, she was telling my mom, but like now she can get help. Now she can be better. Like, I actually have, you know, even though it makes me sad that she's struggling that much, I feel a little bit of relief that she is getting professional help. So if somebody in your life is telling you that they are suicidal, believe them. It's not a fun thing to say. People don't just say it, you know. Getting professional help. If someone's telling you they need more help than they're getting right now, get it for them. Like, I'm always like, it's better to do way more than not enough, you know. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm doing good now. I love doing speeches for NAMI and sharing my story and all of that. So thank you so much for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, feel free to ask questions.
And like I said, we're not medical experts. We come with the lived experience of having mental health issues with people in our families or having it ourselves. So we bring that kind of experience too. We can tell you what we've experienced, what's worked for us, and what hasn't. But certainly we want to entertain any questions that you may have at this time. We have resources here for you. Make sure you pick them up and even pass them on to somebody if you need to. Get a stress ball. They're always good. We use those stress balls at, we had a campaign last year called Go Line Green, where we sponsored an event at football games throughout the state. So we took one of the pictures. I live in Florence, so one of the high schools there did it. We had the football players wearing lime green socks. And some of them got creative with card socks they had on the wrist, and they had the whole 9 yards. Cheerleaders, they had the little pom-poms of the lime green ribbons, and they did activities at school throughout the week leading up to the game. So it was something that we're looking forward to doing. We have even more high schools and middle schools participating this month. We have other programs like NAMI Basic, which is a 6-week program for families of young children. And then there's family to family, and I think one other program as well. That's a different division of what we're in. We're in the educational division, and our area strictly involves educating the public. We do these presentations for schools, for high schools and middle schools. We do them for school staff. We do them for families. When the pandemic came, we started doing them virtually because we were no longer able to go into the schools, and we have been able to make it work. So, any questions? You have questions. I don't know whether I can answer it, but you have one. Oh, you want, because I can hear him. Okay, go ahead. Who you say? There you go. Yeah, well, I can't give one reason per se, but I think the pandemic has exacerbated what was going on all along. It has made it worse. And when you think, I've got some age on me. I don't ever remember a time wherein I had to go home and stay home. I remember specifically when that happened, when everything went down that weekend, and I was in Columbia. I got on the interstate coming back home, and this sign that usually warns you about road conditions said, "Go home, stay home." It was just me and the truckers out there that day, that Sunday afternoon. And I'm saying, oh my God. You know, it was like the thought of impending doom. And I think when you're, it has been issues in the military about mental health conditions for a long time, but what the challenge, and we have offered presentations for veterans and active military families, but we've had very few participation. Oftentimes, what we're getting is they're afraid to come forward and say that they're struggling for repercussions, for either fear of getting kicked out of the military or for whatever reason that their careers might be in jeopardy. That's some of the things that we've been hearing. But it is very disturbing when I hear about what has happened on the USS George Washington recently, where they had to take everybody off the ship. They've had like 7 or 8 suicides within the past few years, and they've had to just, okay, remove everyone from the ship and assign them elsewhere. There's a lot of silence among military in particular about that. Wait your turn. Yeah. And that's not a good thing. Um, there are, I think I will get in touch with Paige. Paige Selking is our director. Her husband is retired military, so is her son. Her husband deals with PTSD, and she has gotten quite a bit of resources together. Can you give me your information before you leave, possibly? Yeah, because I hear a lot of things about not only some of what you're saying, but I'm hearing things about like insurance issues and things like that, that people feel that they can't get help because they don't have insurance. But it has been said now that, what is it, hopeforsc.org? Is it hope? I don't want to say it the wrong way, but there is a site that you can go to no matter what your situation is financially to get assistance. But we have, I'm giving that NAMI card, there's some resources through NAMI that you can call as well, and they can direct you to some services. Yeah. Did you get a bag from up there? Okay, give him a bag and give him that resource card that's in there with all those emergency information on there. Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, we don't want anybody to think that they can't get help. And you're right, when you start, when old feelings start surfacing, it is difficult to deal with. I had to deal with multiple deaths in the family. My husband died, my mom died 5 months later, and last year my grandson was tragically killed. When my husband died, my mom died, they were sick. you kind of expect, you know what's coming, or at least you kind of more prepared when someone's sick. When something like this happens, it's totally different. And I didn't land in a safe space. I didn't. My emotions were all over the place. I was dealing with anger and grief at the same time, and they don't coexist well, okay? So I had to get help for myself because and initially, well, my doctor, who was working on that for me, because I was facing surgery, I was facing shoulder surgery, and she said, there's no way you can go through with this surgery right now. There's just no way you're not prepared, because shoulder surgery is complicated. It's the most complicated of the different replacement surgery, knee and hip and that kind, because the shoulder is a very complicated joint in the body, and the recovery takes a while. So she said, you're just in no shape to do this right now. You're just not. So we put that on hold, and she was working on getting a therapist for me, and she died in November. I was very close to her. She had been my physician for the last 15 years. She was one that she wasn't standing holding the doorknob like some of them are when you go in their office and you got questions and they're in a hurry to get to the next patient, so they're standing with their hand on the door. She wasn't like that. She sat down with you. She talked with me, because I had a total meltdown in her office. I mean, I was just I was just letting it all out, probably disturbing the whole office by that time. But that's the state I was in, because I thought I was going to be able to handle something that I couldn't do it, not on my own. And I had to admit to myself that I can't do this by myself. So in the meantime, she was working on that, but I found a support group, and there are a lot of them out there. I say, if you got a gap between service and what you're going through, support groups is the way to go, because you can immediately get into a support group. You're in there with people that are dealing with the same thing you're dealing with. My daughter joined a group called Mothers of Murdered Offspring, and they had been a source of comfort for her because there were other mothers that dealt with the same thing. So there are resources until you can get into therapy, because, yeah, the VA list is, yeah. But so support groups for sure. And if Paige has any other resources, I want your information before I leave here. Don't you walk out of here without, don't you? I'm going to run you down. Don't do it. Because, yeah, we have to understand that some things we just can't do alone at all. Yes. And you know what? I'm seeing a little bit of it opening up now. It wasn't. It was because mental health issues were thought of as a lack of faith. You're not strong, and it's a sign of weakness. And so this church was not a safe place to turn at all. People are more, they feel more comfortable going to the altar and asking for prayer for physical illnesses. But if they're struggling with a mental health issue, they're less likely to go to that altar. And also, people are used to being told with mental health issues, well, all you need to do is pray. But you know what? If someone has cancer, if someone has diabetes, I'm not going to offer prayer as their only option, okay? I wouldn't tell somebody who has diabetes, all you need to do is pray, and don't tell them they need to take their insulin, because you know they need to take that insulin, okay? I will still lift you up in prayer. However, you need to seek medical attention. And when we take the medical attention off from it and say that, you know, this is something demonic, and it may be that it is. I'm not going to argue that point of whether or not mental health issues is a demonic spirit, but we need treatment. Okay, we need treatment, and treatment can look different ways for different people.
I was just gonna say, so I grew up Catholic, and I had to get confirmed Catholic at 16, and that's when I was really struggling with my depression, and I was suicidal, and you have to go to confession before you take your before you get confirmed, and they give you the 10 Commandments, and, you know, I think, well, you know, thou shalt not kill. Oh, we running out of time? No. Oh. I figured I'd never break that one, you know, I'm not going to kill anyone. Well, it goes in detail when you're going to confess that if you've ever thought about hurting yourself, that counts. And so their idea was that I was supposed to then go to the priest and confess that I had been suicidal. And to me, that was not fair because I didn't want to feel this way. And it was something that's like saying, you know, you need to go confess that you have cancer, in my opinion, you know, like it's something that was just what it was. But I said to the priest, I was so upset, and he actually surprised me, and he said, are you doing okay now? And I said, yes. And he said, then that's all that matters. But yeah, I know, that was.
I need, we have an evaluation that we have for you all, because we need to know how we're doing, okay? It's not enough for us to do presentations. We need to know what information you need from us and ways that we can assist. Now, can you pull up that quick link for me?
Are we doing paper ones?
Or we can do paper, either way. You want to do paper? It's short. It's really short. Yeah, it's really short. We just need we need to get an idea of what yeah. And I've got some pens here. Just take a couple of minutes. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm. Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, guess what? Do you live here in Charleston? Well, Charleston has a local affiliate here. They have a local NAMI affiliate here in Charleston, and I think you could just look it up. They even do sessions online. So look up, if you go to namisc.org, sure, because what you can do is pull up the local NAMI affiliate, and they'll have all the contact information on there. And that support group is for family members, of people who are dealing with mental health issues. That's what it's for. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because you don't know the right things to do and the right things to say and what not to say and that kind of thing. I had a real scary incident with my grandson, an incident with law enforcement. He got out of control. He had an altercation with someone, and he had been non-compliant with his medication, and he just took off into the woods somewhere, whatever, in the neighborhood, in that neighborhood. And so I said, well, first of all, we as family, we got to find him. He needs to get to the hospital, but I don't want anybody else going in looking for him, okay? So I called 911. I said, I need an ambulance. My grandson needs to go to the hospital. He has mental health issues, whatever, yada, yada, yada. She said, does he have a weapon? I said, no, he doesn't have a weapon. She said, well, the police will be on. I said, I didn't call for the police. I called for an ambulance. Well, as part of the protocol, the police have to come. I said, well, as long as they understand not to come up in here with weapons drawn. This is a teenager. It's a young kid. He doesn't have a weapon. He's not out to hurt anybody. Please don't come in. And sure enough, 10 cars deep, here they come. They arrived before the ambulance did. But by that time, we had found him. I locked him up in my SUV, and I said, don't you get out of this car till I tell you. The police officer came up, ma'am, where is he? I said, he's in my SUV. He said, well, I need to talk to him. I said, why? I said, I didn't send for you, I sent for him. Well, does he have I said, no, he doesn't have a weapon. Well, I said, listen, I told him to stay in this car and not get out until I tell him. Well, I said, sir, as far as my grandson is concerned, I'm the police. He's gonna do what I tell him. And I told him, don't get out of this car until I tell you to do so. And I was standing in front of the door because that's when my mental health training had to kick in. This kid was 15 years old, and he was almost 6'3". Had he gotten out of that police car, and when he did get out and stand up, the officer was looking up at him like this. Gosh, he's tall, and I said, that's the reason why, because his size, his height would have been intimidating. And there's no telling when someone is out of control, the worst thing you can do, and I know officers are trained to do that, the worst thing you can do is put your hands on them. Don't even tap them on, don't touch them at all, because they see it as a threat, okay? They feel like they're in immediate danger when somebody touches them. So even though you might be trying, whatever, son, daughter, whatever, do not. That's one of the first things. The thing that was playing in my mind is that if he got out of this car, the ambulance hadn't gotten here yet, and they were just talking to the police officers, if that conversation went south, somebody could get hurt or be killed. And I didn't want it to be my grandson. I didn't want it to be anybody. But that's what, as family members, you do need to know what to do. And we know as African Americans that we have this conversation with our sons and the men in our lives about driving while black and all this kind of stuff. And if that person has mental health issues, they're triggered even quicker. So yeah, there are resources here locally. There's a local NAMI affiliate right here in Charleston, and who would also be able to direct you. That probably would be my first stop, is the local NAMI affiliate here in Charleston. It does? Okay. 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 And so we already got a little person back there. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for participating and for being patient and listening, and hope that we were able to give you some information that you really could use. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and we need those back. you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, we enjoyed having you. Okay, okay. Okay, all right. Okay. Here you go. Um, you all can come a little bit closer because that way you can hear me better, okay? Don't be scared. I'm not gonna bite. No. Okay. All right. The attentive little group. All right. What grade are you in? Okay. 8, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Go ahead and get one. Help yourself. And make sure you get one of the, yeah.
Oh, I got one of
You
those.
got one of these. You got a bag? Get a bag.
Okay.
Get one of those, they're loose.
Oh, okay.
Get a, and get a wristband. Oh, I forgot about the wristband. Get a wristband.
Okay.
Get a wristband.
Thank you. I think everything is in here. Yeah.
Can we get the video back again? Can we? I need the, we're getting ready to start the next session, so we need the video from the beginning, the slide from the beginning, please. Yes. Okay, so you all are over here. So what I'm gonna do, can you kind of slide down this way? Yeah. There you go. What happened to the other little fella? He just came in and gave me a hug and left. Where'd he go? I just wondered what happened to you. I didn't see you. I thought you disappeared. Okay, Wesley. What grade are you in? Okay, sixth grade. Okay. Where's my clicker? Sorry. Do you, do, can you hit slideshow and then from the beginning? Just click on slideshow and then go over to the far left and click from the beginning and the whole thing will pull up. Where is he at? Okay. Can he, huh? Okay. We'll be starting in a minute.